Hello everybody, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I wanted to come on and share a process video with you guys today. I made this have a fantastic day birthday card for my dad, who's celebrating his birthday tonight. And I made this card using the Greeting Farm Magicals stamp set. Isn't it a cute one? I used this sweet little mermaid as well as this little cutie patootie that I switched up her bottom, and I doodled out this little tail to make her into a little mermaid too. And I wanted to make my dad a fun little card, so I made this into a tactile, gel-filled, watery card. And I got the idea for this by watching a Lawn Fawn video last week. I switched it up a little bit because I wanted it to be gel-filled instead of water-filled, so that the little confetti pieces that I put in would be suspended in the gel. I wanted to make a watery background, so I took 140-pound Strathmore watercolor paper, and I'm just going to make some swooshes of color. That's the technical term, swooshes, with my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers in a variety of blues and aqua colors. So this is really easy, forgiving watercoloring. You just make some swoosh lines, and the only thing about this is I didn't want anything jaggedy or pointed, so I wanted to make sure that when I start making my swoosh lines, I know where I'm going to end. So, when I'm making these arches, I go all the way across, or at least I know where I'm going to go, and I then put in some color, usually in the areas where it's narrowing, so that that area looks like it's darker and the area that's wider is a little bit lighter. And I just put in some color, and then I take a water brush and blend it together. Now you see me doing my second color of the watery swooshes, and I am intentionally leaving a gap between the first area I colored and this next layer of color because I didn't want the two colors to blend. And with watercolor, in order to avoid blending, you really have to wait for one area to fully dry. So I left that little gap, and I'm doing my next area of watercoloring. And again, there's no right or wrong to this, but I wanted the areas that were more narrow to have more of the intense color, and the areas that were wider to have a paler or more watered down look. So I'm just putting in the markered areas where the swoosh is more narrow and letting the water really do a lot of the blending work. I'm barely doing anything actually. The water brush is really moving the marker ink around really well. For the next area, I decided to use a more intense blue, so I'm using a Persian blue. And in fact, if you want to know all the colors that I used, please check my blog post, which I will link to in the description box below, and all of my colors, whether they're Zig Clean Color Real Brush colors or Copic colors, all of my materials are listed in my blog post. I'm going to go ahead and skip over the rest of this so that you're not sitting here just watching me paint swaths of blue color, but you get the idea. I will say that if you ever want to just kind of zone out, meditate, painting out swaths of color with these Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers is really meditative and very zen. I really enjoyed this. I just had music playing in the background while I did it. And I feel like there's nothing quite like watercoloring to give a really aquatic, watery look. To swap out the little cutie patooties skirt and legs with a mermaid tail, I'm just eyeballing the general size because I figure if it's a little too big, it can be cut down and the sidelines can be redrawn a little bit. And I'm just making little swoosh lines, essentially, making the fin and the tail and There's no right or wrong here. Mermaids are totally imaginary, so I just wanted to make it similar to the other Little Mermaid, although she's a little bit bigger, as you can see by the size of her hair. I figured I would put her kind of in a seated position with her tail going in the opposite direction of the other Little Mermaid, so that she could be on the lower left of the card and the other one could be on the upper right of the card. Because I didn't want this video to get super long, I'm skipping over the coloring of the Little Mermaid, and I'm just going to show you the coloring of the hair of the mermaid that I created. I'm using Y00 to put in an area of highlight because I wanted to have something that would look kind of like an ombre with yellow and purple. Now I'm going through and using my medium tone of purple, which is a V15, and I'm marking in where I think the shadows would be. Wherever there are little waves or line marks that show, batches of hair, I'm trying to figure out what layer of hair is in the front and what is in the back. And wherever I think a layer of hair is behind, I'm putting in a shadow line with this medium tone. And I'm using the medium because in case I make a mistake, I can hide that with the lighter and the darker purples. So I'm going through and marking in all those shadowed areas. Now I'm taking the darker purple, this is a V17, and I'm remarking in the areas where I think that the shadows would be. I'm sorry so much if this coloring has my hand over the image, but hopefully it'll get better in a little bit. I am remarking in the shadowed areas with the darker purple, and I'm also putting in some extra brush strokes to indicate that it's hair, fine hair, as opposed to just, a blanket of one color. That flicking motion that I'm doing with my hand really creates the impression of hair as opposed to, how little kids color where, they just color big areas all one shade. Those flick marks really give that indication of individual hairs. Now at this point you're thinking the hair looks a little crazy, but just wait, bear with me. When I pick up the lightest color next, I'm going to be blending in the medium and darker purples with the lightest purple, and then you'll really start to see the gradation that will be a more natural look, notwithstanding the fact that this is going to be purple hair, of course. Here you see me, I'm just continuing on with those little flick marks. And as you're doing this, of course, not every flick mark is going to be really thin. Don't worry, when you put in the next layers of color, both lighter and darker, all those flicking marks will work together to create a realistic look for hair. Now I'm taking the lightest purple, this is a V12, and I am trying to connect the medium and lightest yellow areas with this light purple, and it really starts to blend together nicely and you get a softer looking image when you do that full range from super light with that Y00 to the light V12, medium V15, darker V17, and I think I even add a V09, which is the darkest. And that's the thing with those Copic markers, the numbers don't necessarily indicate the lightest or darkest. Like the V09 is actually much darker than the V17, but what you really need to do is create a swatch page so that you know exactly how your marker colors are going to come out on your paper. Now I'm going back in again with the medium purple, the V15, because when you go in with a lighter color after a medium or darker color, like I did with the V12, your V12 has more alcohol in it, so it actually is blending away or washing out, bleaching out the medium and darker purples. So in order to get that full depth of color and really give a good 3D look, you want to go back in with your medium and darker colors again after you put in your highlight color or the lightest color. You can see here now it's finally starting to look more realistic. Again, I realize it's purple hair, but you know, more like hair, with all those flicks building up together, contributing to the look of real hair and real dimension. As you can see here, I fussy cut around the little girl, but at the bottom, I'm just being kind of more blunt because it's going to get covered up. I'm dry fitting the tail, and I'm noticing that the tail is a little bit too wide at the top. So I'm cutting a little tiny sliver off of the left side and a little tiny sliver off of the right side. That kind of gives her more hips anyway. And then I'm reestablishing the edge with that black Copic multi-liner pen. I've dry fit that on, and I realize the feet are showing, so snip those off. And there we are, a newly created little mermaid. For the front panel, I've die cut out a scalloped oval opening with a diamond die, and I'm making a shaker pocket with a Ziploc bag, some hand sanitizer, and some table scatter, some little confetti pieces. And now I'm just smooshing out the extra air, and here I realized that my table scatter, actually the color on those little confetti pieces is coming off with the hand sanitizer. So the pocket isn't as clear as I had first imagined it, but it actually went fine. Since the front panel was gold glitter, it made the water look a little more realistic, I think. You know, oceans aren't totally clear water, they're murky. So at first I freaked out about that color coming off of the scatter, but afterwards I kind of liked it. Now I'm just securing that Ziploc bag with some Scotch tape on all four sides because I don't want this gel-filled shaker going anywhere. So I'm making sure that it's completely secure. Because I want the card front more level, I'm using double-sided foam adhesive, and I'm putting it all along the back of this card front. And I'm cutting it in strips so as not to waste too much of the double-sided foam adhesive, but I'm making sure that all around the edges and in these corners, there is double-sided foam adhesive to support the card front. Now I'm just taking off all of the release paper, and then I'm going to be positioning it over top of that watercolored back panel. Now all that's left to do is to assemble everything together. I used some art glitter glue to glue down the little girls, and then I printed out the sentiment, "Have a fantastic day," on my printer, and I just cut it into a banner shape and popped it up on double-sided foam adhesive to give a little more dimension. And around the scalloped oval, I used some Tim Holtz Distress Stickles in broken china just to add a little accent. And I just can't stop playing with this watery shaker center. It's so fun. I love seeing all the sparkly confetti pieces moving around in there, and I think my dad will get a kick out of this. I hope you enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching.